The moment a dream finally made sense. Dreams rarely arrive fully formed. More often, they linger at the edges of our lives, half-shaped ideas, quiet fascinations, fleeting images of a future we're not yet ready to claim. And for one person, a dream they had carried since childhood finally revealed its meaning in a single, unforgettable moment. We tend to believe dreams are supposed to be clear from the beginning. But in reality, most dreams evolve as we do. They wait for the right experience, the right challenge, the right moment of clarity to show us what they truly are. In a world where careers twist, shift, and reinvent themselves, understanding the slow unfolding has never been more important. Their life had followed a practical path. They chose stability. They chose logic. They chose the road that made sense. Yet somewhere in the background, a quiet dream continued to glow. One they rarely spoke about. One they never believed to be part of their real future. It was easier to treat it as a memory than a possibility. For years, they focused on doing what was expected. They excelled. They advanced. They built a life grounded in responsibility. But the dream never disappeared. It showed up in brief moments of inspiration, in flashes of imagination, in the subtle pull towards something more meaningful than their daily routine allowed. Then came the moment that changed everything. A moment so ordinary they almost missed it. They were listening to someone share a story about purpose, about doing work that feels like an extension of who you are. As they listened, something clicked with startling clarity. The dream that had followed them quietly for years suddenly aligned with the person they had become. It wasn't childish. It wasn't unrealistic. It wasn't distant. For the first time in their life, the dream made sense. That realization was the beginning of a shift that would soon reshape their entire future. The realization settled into their thoughts with surprising depth. It didn't feel like excitement. Not yet. It felt like recognition, as if a part of themselves they had long ignored had finally stepped into the light. The dream that once felt impossible now appeared in a new form, shaped not by fantasy, but by experience, growth, and a clearer understanding of who they were becoming. In the days that followed, they found themselves returning to that moment again and again. They replayed the words they had heard, the emotions that surfaced, the quiet certainty that had taken root. For the first time, the dream didn't feel distant or impractical. It felt aligned, woven into their strengths, their values, their evolving sense of purpose. But with clarity came conflict. They had built a stable life, one grounded in responsibility and routine. Their current path made sense. It was familiar, respected, predictable. To entertain a dream, especially one they had buried for so long, felt reckless, irresponsible, almost embarrassing. A voice within them insisted that dreams belonged to younger, freer versions of themselves, not the person who had obligations to meet and expectations to uphold. Yet another voice, quieter but stronger, urged them to look closer. It suggested that the dream had never been a distraction. It had been a compass, a guide pointing toward the kind of work that would let them feel fully alive. That internal tug-of-war grew stronger each day. As they moved through their routines, the misalignment became clearer. They completed tasks with competence, but without connection. Their mind drifted toward what could be rather than what was. Even small moments revealed the truth. The life they were living no longer reflected the depths of what they wanted. The conflict reached a new intensity when they imagined themselves years into the future. The vision was steady, but it lacked color, lacked passion, lacked meaning. They realized that if nothing changed, the dream would remain just that, a quiet possibility slowly fading into regret. This thought unsettled them more than the risk of pursuing something new. It forced them to confront a reality they had avoided for years. The dream wasn't asking for a leap. It was asking for acknowledgement, for permission, for a chance to be part of their life. And with that realization, the foundations of their old certainty began to shift. The shift within them deepened, stirring a tension they could no longer ignore. The dream that once lived quietly in the background now pressed forward with clarity that unsettled them. It wasn't demanding action, not yet, but it was asking to be taken seriously for the first time in their life. This created an emotional storm unlike anything they had faced before. Their practical mind insisted on staying the course. They had stability, respect, a clear trajectory. To change direction now felt risky, irresponsible, even selfish. But another part of them, older, wiser, finally awake, knew that a dream ignored for too long becomes a weight. And that weight had been growing for years. As they moved through their days, the contrast between the life they had built and the life they longed for sharpened. Tasks felt increasingly hollow. Achievements brought only momentary satisfaction. Their work, once a source of pride, now felt like a script they had memorized rather than a story they were meant to tell. The more honest they became with themselves, the clearer it was. They were living a life that made sense on paper, but not in their heart. The conflict reached its breaking point during a moment no one else noticed. They were asked to contribute to a project that aligned perfectly with their skills but not with their passion. As they listened to the expectations being laid out, they felt a wave of heaviness wash over them, not because the task was difficult, but because it crystallized the gap between what they were doing and what they truly wanted. They imagined themselves repeating this pattern for years, competent, respected, unfulfilled. The thought tightened in their chest, sharp and undeniable. They could no longer pretend the dream was a childish fantasy. It had evolved with them. It had matured. It had waited patiently for the moment when they were finally strong enough to face it. That night, unable to sleep, they allowed themselves to fully imagine a life where the dream wasn't hidden but pursued. The vision terrified them. It also electrified them. It stretched beyond their current path, beyond their comfort, beyond the boundaries they had quietly accepted. In that moment of raw clarity, they understood something profound. The dream didn't make sense before because they weren't ready. But now their experiences, their struggles, their growth, all of it had prepared them to finally see the dream for what it truly was. Not an escape, a direction. And recognizing that truth marked the beginning of a transformation, they could no longer stop. Once they understood the dream was not a distraction but a direction, the decision they had avoided for years finally came into focus. Letting go of the life they had built felt terrifying, but the thought of abandoning the dream now felt even worse. For the first time, they weren't driven by ambition or fear. They were driven by clarity. They began with small steps, quiet and deliberate. They researched possibilities, reached out to people who lived lives that resembled the one they imagined, and explored the skills they would need to grow. Each step strengthened the connection between who they were and who they hoped to become. The dream no longer felt distant. It felt reachable. Courage grew slowly but steadily. Their old life continued, but it no longer held the same power. They felt themselves loosening their grip on expectations that once shaped them. They recognized that the very things they feared, uncertainty, risk, reinvention, were the same things that made the dream possible. And for the first time, uncertainty felt like an open door rather than a threat. The turning point arrived the day they finally said out loud, "I'm going to pursue this." The words felt fragile, yet profoundly true. Speaking them didn't just mark a decision. It marked a commitment to themselves, to their future, to the dream that had followed them through every chapter of their life. The transition was neither simple nor swift. Some days filled them with excitement. Others filled them with doubt. But each moment affirmed that they were finally moving toward a life that matched the person they were becoming. Opportunities emerged, small ones at first, then larger ones, each one confirming that the dream had been waiting for this exact moment to unfold. Looking back, they understood the truth hidden in their journey. The dream had always been there. It wasn't childhood fantasy, but a compass pointing toward a deeper purpose. It only made sense once they had grown enough to see it clearly. And when they finally embraced it, their life expanded in ways they could never have imagined. And that was the quiet beauty of the moment when a dream finally made sense. It wasn't an ending. It was the beginning of the life they were meant to live. Subscribe to join the journey.